In this video, we examine the historical background of King Varelius of Hadrion and the administrative system he built during his long reign. We explore how his emphasis on record-keeping, public order, and standardized procedures led to the creation of the Iron Yoke of Humiliation. We also review how this device functioned within his correctional policies and how its use shaped civic behavior across the empire. Guys, can you help me to hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel? And it's my dream. Sorry for interruption. It's humble request. Let's jump into the video. King Varelius of Hadrion began his ascent from a minor provincial noble family that held limited influence within the eastern territories of the Hadrianic Empire. His early education emphasized administrative mathematics, record-keeping, and agricultural logistics. These subjects shaped his methodical approach to leadership in later years. As a young man, Varelius served as a clerk for the imperial treasury during a period of regional instability. Exposure to the inner workings of revenue collection and expenditure tracking helped him understand the financial weaknesses of competing lords. This awareness later allowed him to consolidate authority without immediate resistance. His rise accelerated when he recommended a revised land tax formula that increased state revenue without requiring additional labor from farmers. Local governors adopted the formula after witnessing its predictable results. Varelius gained recognition as a figure who could solve structural problems through calculation rather than coercion. The emperor appointed him to oversee grain distribution in the Central Plains following a severe seasonal shortage. His efficiency in stabilizing food supply earned him support from merchant guilds and farming councils. These groups later influenced the decision to elevate him to higher administrative positions. When the aging emperor died without a direct heir, several nobles claimed succession rights. Varelius was invited to mediate between the factions because of his reputation for impartial accounting. Instead of selecting a claimant, the nobles endorsed Varelius himself after observing his ability to maintain calm negotiations. His coronation took place in the capital of Vastrum under strict ceremonial protocols. Records from the time indicate that his first decree reorganized the imperial archive. He prioritized accurate state documentation as the foundation of long-term authority. During his early reign, Varelius focused on establishing administrative predictability across the empire. He introduced standardized measurements for trade goods, which reduced disputes between merchants. This system increased tax reliability and strengthened imperial oversight of regional markets. He instructed provincial officials to submit quarterly reports that included population counts, land use records, and projected yields. These reports allowed him to identify regions with declining productivity and address them with targeted interventions. His reliance on statistics distinguished him from previous rulers. Varelius expanded the imperial road network to improve communication between outlying territories and the capital. The roads were constructed using uniform specifications for width, slope, and reinforcement. This consistency ensured easier inspection and repair. He implemented a rotation schedule for border garrisons to prevent local commanders from gaining excessive influence. Soldiers from distant provinces served short tours before returning to their home regions. This policy minimized the risk of military alliances forming against the central government. Trade delegates from neighboring kingdoms viewed Hadrian as a stable partner due to Varelius's administrative approach. He negotiated tariff agreements that reduced travel restrictions for caravans entering imperial territory. These agreements increased revenue for both Hadrian and its trading partners. Despite his emphasis on order, he maintained a cautious stance toward internal dissent. Instead of responding with immediate force, he required magistrates to document the causes of unrest before proposing corrective measures. This process allowed him to address disputes without escalating conflict. His council meetings followed a strict structure designed to maximize efficiency. Each advisor received a fixed number of minutes to present updates. Varelius recorded key figures in personal notebooks to verify accuracy before approving new initiatives. The king valued infrastructure as a long-term investment rather than an immediate display of wealth. He funded the construction of canals to support irrigation in arid districts. Farmers recorded improved yields within 2 growing seasons, reinforcing confidence in his planning. Urban centers experienced population growth due to the increased availability of grain and improved transportation routes. Varelius commissioned surveys of these expanding districts to ensure that essential services such as wells and marketplaces remained functional. These surveys formed the basis for future zoning regulations. The legal system under his reign underwent a methodical review. He appointed scholars to compare regional customs and produce a unified set of codes. These codes clarified penalties for property disputes, fraud, and breach of contract, reducing variation between provinces. He encouraged the preservation of historical records, believing that accurate documentation allowed future administrators to avoid repeating earlier mistakes. Scribes copied older documents onto standardized parchment to prevent deterioration. This initiative created one of the largest archives in the region. Varelius avoided reliance on court entertainers or personal favorites who might influence policy for personal gain. Court culture under his rule remained reserved and oriented toward administrative matters. Visitors often described the palace as efficient but lacking elaborate ceremonial activities. The king maintained a disciplined daily routine that centered on reviewing reports and verifying calculations. He delegated few tasks without seeking supporting evidence. This habit reinforced his reputation as a ruler who preferred measurable outcomes over personal impressions. Although he seldom traveled, he required detailed regional maps updated annually. Surveyors recorded changes in terrain, settlement expansion, and road usage patterns. These maps allowed the central government to distribute resources according to evolving conditions. He introduced a structured apprenticeship program within the bureaucracy. Young clerks learned standardized procedures before receiving independent assignments. This system ensured continuity of governance regardless of individual appointments. Hadrian's revenue increased steadily during his middle reign due to improved taxation accuracy and increased trade activity. The surplus allowed Varelius to maintain reserve stores of grain and metals. These reserves provided economic insulation during minor crises. Relations with religious institutions remained stable because the king respected their administrative autonomy. He requested only annual summaries of temple income and expenditures. This limited oversight reduced conflict while preserving transparency. Foreign observers noted that Varelius rarely delivered public speeches. Instead, he issued written directives that followed a consistent format. These directives became templates for later rulers in neighboring states. The king saw public works as instruments for strengthening administrative reach rather than symbols of imperial authority. He invested in watchtowers along major roads to monitor traffic and support caravan safety. Records indicate a decline in theft reports after their construction. Although he supported academic inquiry, he prioritized studies with practical value such as engineering, crop science, and mathematics. Scholars received grants for research that could improve state infrastructure or agricultural yields. This focus reinforced his utilitarian approach to governance. Late in his reign, Varelius established a council specifically dedicated to evaluating the physical condition of state workers, including laborers and clerks. The council recommended standardized work hours to prevent exhaustion. This policy demonstrated his interest in maintaining a productive workforce. By the end of the first 3 decades of his administration, Hadrian operated under a predictable system of regulation, documentation, and measured expansion. Citizens experienced relative stability due to consistent policy enforcement. The groundwork of his governance shaped the context in which later punitive measures developed. His emphasis on controlled order influenced every institution within the empire. Administrative precision became a defining characteristic of Hadrian under his authority. This environment framed the emergence of disciplinary practices that appeared in later years. The orderly structure he created provided both benefits and strict expectations for compliance. As the empire continued to expand, his methods remained centralized and data-oriented. These methods shaped the policies that the next episode will explain in further detail. During the later years of King Varelius's reign, his administrative order expanded into a structured disciplinary framework. This framework aimed to regulate conduct within urban centers and border regions. Its policies reflected his belief that public organization relied on consistent enforcement. The Iron Yoke of Humiliation emerged as a product of this administrative philosophy. Records indicate that the device was commissioned by the Office of Public Compliance, a department created to standardize correctional practices. The department worked with blacksmith guilds to design equipment that aligned with state guidelines. Early prototypes were constructed for assessment by royal inspectors. These inspections evaluated durability, ease of application, and controlled visibility in public settings. After 2 years of testing, the final model was approved and distributed to major provinces. The iron yoke consisted of a rigid collar made from tempered iron. Attached to the collar were 2 symmetrical rods extending outward to keep the arms fully separated. This structure restricted the wearer's movement and prevented the arms from lowering or folding. The collar portion included a locking mechanism positioned at the back to prevent tampering. Screw pins allowed officers to adjust the collar circumference to match the size of the wearer's neck. The rods were fixed at measured angles to maintain uniform posture. State records describe the device as a tool for visible correction rather than punitive injury. Its purpose was to display the violation in a public space while limiting the wearer's ability to shield their appearance. The requirement for extended arm positioning symbolized openness to inspection. The yoke was used primarily for infractions related to administrative order. Common violations included misreporting of trade goods, tampering with official documents, or disrupting scheduled public assemblies. Officials categorized these offenses as breaches of civic discipline rather than acts of rebellion. Application of the device followed a documented procedure. Magistrates issued written orders specifying duration, location, and supervising officers. The wearer was positioned in central plazas or near administrative offices to ensure that passers-by could observe the correction. Provincial officers maintained logs detailing the number of hours each individual spent in the yoke. These logs included notations on physical condition, compliance with posture requirements, and observed reactions from the public. The logs were reviewed during quarterly inspections. The duration of use varied according to the severity of the violation. Minor infractions required several hours, while more significant administrative breaches could extend to multiple days. Regulations limited the maximum duration to prevent permanent physical damage. Public positioning was chosen to encourage acknowledgement of state authority. Officers rotated locations to ensure equal visibility across districts. These rotations prevented clustering of disciplinary sites that might disrupt market activity or impede transportation routes. The empire's blacksmith guilds maintained responsibility for producing standardized yokes under state contract. Each yoke carried an engraved identification number to track usage and lifespan. Inspectors replaced worn or damaged components during routine audits. The rods maintained a fixed span designed to exert pressure without causing immediate structural harm to the joints. Reports emphasized that the discomfort created by sustained separation served as a regulatory measure rather than a tool of acute injury. This distinction aligned with Varelius's preference for controlled enforcement. Medical advisors within the Royal Council submitted periodic assessments of the device's effects. They noted predictable patterns of muscle strain and temporary joint stiffness following extended usage. These findings allowed the state to refine duration limits to prevent long-term impairment. The yoke's public role extended beyond the individual wearer. It served as a visual reminder of the consequences of administrative negligence. Market clerks, record keepers, and merchants often reference the device when instructing apprentices on the importance of accuracy. Urban planners incorporated designated correctional platforms into major plazas. These platforms were constructed from stone and included iron rings for securing yokes during windy conditions. Their standardized dimensions ensured consistency across regional capitals. Although the device was widely used, written regulations emphasized that magistrates should avoid assigning it for disputes involving personal conflict. The state intended the yoke for violations concerning administrative processes. This guideline reduced its use in interpersonal disagreements. Travelers passing through Hadrion often documented their observations of the device. Foreign scribes described the yoke as an emblem of the kingdom's commitment to orderliness. Their accounts highlighted the contrast between Hadrian's structured corrections and the harsher punishments practiced elsewhere. Statistical records collected by the Office of Public Compliance show a decline in document-related errors during the decade following the introduction of the yoke. Officials attributed this decline to increased awareness of administrative accountability. The device therefore functioned as both corrective and preventative. provinces developed schedules for routine training of officers responsible for applying and removing the yoke. The training included techniques for securing the collar, monitoring posture, and documenting observations. These procedures ensured uniform enforcement across the empire. State directives required that water and basic nutrition be provided to individuals assigned long-duration corrections. Officers received guidelines for monitoring signs of fatigue, muscle tightening, and joint stress. Compliance with these standards formed part of annual performance evaluations. Merchants who witnessed the correction noted changes in public behavior. Citizens became more attentive when completing tax forms or verifying trade weights. The visibility of the device encouraged caution in administrative interactions. Temple officials expressed concern that the yoke might interfere with ritual schedules in crowded plazas. In response, the state established time restrictions to avoid overlapping with large gatherings. This adjustment demonstrated the administrative flexibility that characterized Varelius's governance. Some regional councils proposed alternative correctional measures for individuals with pre-existing physical conditions. The king approved modified penalties in such cases, allowing for written acknowledgments or supervised labor assignments instead of the yoke. These alternatives ensured that corrections remained proportionate and safe. Detailed diagrams of the yoke appear in surviving archival manuscripts. The diagrams include measurements for collar width, rod length, metal thickness, and locking mechanisms. These specifications helped artisans reproduce the device uniformly across generations. The Office of Public Compliance also directed periodic reviews to evaluate the device's continued relevance. Officials measured its impact on administrative accuracy and public behavior. These reviews determined whether adjustments were needed to maintain effectiveness. One review emphasized the importance of strategic placement within urban areas. Planners repositioned certain platforms to ensure that public visibility remained high. This repositioning ensured that correctional displays reached diverse segments of the population. Records note that provincial governors sometimes requested additional units of the yoke due to increased administrative activity in expanding towns. The blacksmith guilds responded by scaling production to meet state demand. This scaling process reinforced the interconnectedness of artisans and government. The yoke became a recognizable feature of civic life during Varelius's reign. Its presence encouraged attention to detail among clerks and merchants. The state viewed this behavioral shift as evidence of the device's regulatory function. By the end of its second decade of use, the iron yoke served as the primary instrument for addressing administrative violations. It reflected the king's systematic approach to social order. Its impact shaped the broader disciplinary environment within which other corrective tools operated. As the administrative system continued to expand, documentation of the yoke's effects became more detailed. These documents now serve as primary sources for understanding the regulatory priorities of Varelius's government. They also provide context for later changes in disciplinary policy. The framework established during this period set the stage for developments that followed in subsequent years. The broader implications of these policies influenced decisions within the palace council and provincial courts. These developments will be examined in the next episode. During the final phase of King Varelius's governance, administrative councils began evaluating long-term effects of the iron yoke on civic behavior. Their assessments focused on accuracy in record-keeping, consistency in trade reports, and public response to visible corrections. These evaluations contributed to updated guidelines. Provincial governors submitted comparative data showing reduced errors in accounting procedures. They reported fewer instances of missing documents or altered entries. These changes indicated that the presence of the yoke created a culture of heightened attentiveness. The Office of Public Compliance recommended expanding officer training to improve monitoring of individuals assigned to the yoke. Training materials emphasized correct posture assessment, safe duration limits, and standardized documentation. This approach maintained uniformity throughout all provinces. Some councils noted increased strain on urban plazas due to frequent use of correctional platforms. In response, planners redistributed platforms across secondary streets to maintain traffic flow. The redistribution allowed corrections to remain visible without interrupting daily activities. Medical advisors contributed updated analyses regarding physical stress caused by extended arm separation. Their reports helped refine maximum usage durations for individuals with differing body structures. These refinements ensured that corrections aligned with the principles of controlled enforcement. Merchants and clerks continued to reference the yoke as a reminder of administrative responsibility. Observers recorded improvements in market accuracy and punctual submission of forms. These observations confirmed that the device retained its preventative value. Late archival documents show that the yoke's role shifted from frequent corrective use to occasional deployment for significant administrative breaches. This shift reflected overall improvements in civic compliance. It also demonstrated the stability produced by the broader regulatory framework. By the end of Varelius's administrative era, the yoke stood as an established component of state discipline. Its influence shaped public expectations regarding accuracy and accountability, forming part of the structured order that defined his reign.